all of you are here. We welcome all of you. We appreciate your efforts. Please limit your testimony to 5 minutes, and without objection, your prepared written statements will be made part of the record. I'll now go to Ms. Thunberg for her statement.
My name is Greta Thunberg. I have not come to offer any prepared remarks at this hearing. I'm instead attaching my testimony. It is the IPCC Special Report on Global Warming of 1.5 degrees Celsius, the SR 1.5, which was released on October 8th, 2018. I am submitting this report as my testimony because I don't want you to listen to me. I want you to listen to the scientists. And I want you to unite behind the science. And then I want you to take real action. Thank you.
Tack så mycket. Start just with Ms. Thunberg. You chose to submit the IPCC report in lieu of your written testimony. Could you expand on why it's so important to listen to the science?
Well, I don't see a reason to not listen to the science. It's just such a thing that we should be taking for granted, that we listen to the current best available united science. It's just something that everyone should do. This is not political opinions, political views, or my opinions. This is the science. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Ms. Thunberg, let me ask you a question. If you're sailing across the ocean and you're picking up trash along the way, and for every one piece of trash that you pick up, there's a boat right next to you dumping out 5 pieces, how would that make you feel?
First of all, we were going so fast, there wasn't enough to pick up any trash.
All right, well, if you were a slow sailor like me, how would that make you feel?
Well, first of all, if you use that logic, then I am also dumping a lot of trash in the ocean. And then I would stop dumping my trash in the ocean and tell the other boat to stop dumping their trash in the ocean as well.
And that's the important point here. I think that what we need to be doing is we need to be focusing on the countries that are dumping trash in the ocean. Of course, that's a metaphor. The fact that China is, here we are talking about reducing emissions, yet China, under the Paris Accords, are going to be increasing their emissions by nearly 50%, 5 gigatons annually. So while in the United States we need to continue investing in innovative solutions and exporting clean energy technologies, it makes no sense for us to be doing it if we're simply watching for increases in China.
I have a question. When your children ask you, did you do absolutely everything in your power to stop the climate crisis, when the storms are getting worse and we're seeing all of the effects of the climate crisis, when they ask you, did you do everything? Can you really look them in the eye and say, no, sorry, I couldn't do anything because that country over there didn't do anything, so if they're not going to do it, then I'm not? That is shameful, and that is cowardly. And there is no excuse to not take action, to not improve as much as we can in the United States. And how can we call ourselves the city on a hill or an example for the world if we're going to be cowards and hide behind waiting for other people, saying that I'm not going to do this because they didn't? I want you to think about, this is all about being able to look your children in the eye and say, I did absolutely everything I could for you. I know that we're up against a lot of pressure. I know that the time is running out, but like honey, however you call your kids, I did everything I could. And so I just don't understand, as a parent, how can you look your kid in the eye and say, there's this impending crisis, everything is at stake. But I stood back and I didn't really do anything. I didn't take action. I didn't act like it was an emergency because our neighbors over there weren't doing it. So I'm just not going to. How can you tell your children that?
Ms. Thunberg?
I think I don't need to add anything, but just another perspective. I am from Sweden. It's a small country, and there it is the same argument. Why should we do anything? Just look at the US, they say. So just so you know, that is being used against you as well.
I'm curious, in your travels as an activist and as an advocate, have you heard stories or have you engaged with those who are focused on the issues of how climate change and the instability it causes internationally are impacting security issues and how those might impact our future generations?
I have, of course, met many people who have experienced environmental and climate-related disasters and who try to help people to come back from that. And I haven't been meeting so much with people who have told me stories about it being a national security threat because I simply haven't had enough time to do that. There are so many people to meet and so many stories to hear, so I can't listen to them all. But I imagine maybe one of the others have. It doesn't seem like they have either. So maybe then you should talk to someone who is an expert in that area.
And you mentioned, apart from the security aspect of things, that you have spoken with many who have faced disasters at home due to global climate change. Could you perhaps give a couple of examples just for the committee to hear of the stories you've heard?
Yes, I have met people whose communities were simply, whose neighborhoods were destroyed by natural disasters, who were amplified by the climate crisis. I've met people whose food and water supply is being threatened by environmental or climate-related catastrophes, and it's so sad that it's so incredibly many people, so incredibly many examples that is just horrible, because so many who have experienced this and so many who are suffering from this today. And I mean, we are already seeing the consequences, unacceptable consequences of this today, and it will only get worse the longer we delay action unless we start to act now.
Thank you very much.
I asked a few students that I have the honor of working with in New Mexico, and one of them responded. Her name is Marina Weber Stevens. She's one of the founding members of the Global Warming Express. Anyone that's interested can find them at theglobalwarmingexpress.org. And she asked a very important question, but one that I think you have an answer to, and it's this: what is the best way to get the younger generation, teens and students involved in advocacy to address the climate crisis? And I would add to that, adults. What can we be doing? How can we get more young people involved?
How we can get more young people involved? I think to just tell them the truth, tell them how it is, and because when I found out how it actually was, that made me furious. So I wanted to do something about it, and that is at least I've spoken to many, and I think that is the experience many others have. Because as it is now, people in general don't seem to be very aware of the actual science and how severe this crisis actually is. So I just think we need to inform them and start treating this crisis like the existential emergency it is, then I think people will understand and want to do something about it.
I think that's powerful. Tell them the truth.